The Midwest is where the champions of college football reign. Welcome, everybody, on a Tullymore Tuesday. Glad you're with us on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan. I'm Matt Shepard. Trent Bally is with us as well. What an amazing turnaround. It's probably the greatest college turnaround in the history of college athletics. Indiana, the losingest football program until this year when Northwestern passed them, but the losingest football program in the history of college football is a national champion. They finished 16-0 after beating Miami last night in Miami, I might add, although it wasn't really a home field advantage by any stretch. Miami actually was in the visiting locker room, but they beat them last night 27-21 in a thriller, becoming the first team since the 1894 Yale Bulldogs to finish 16-0. The Hoosiers also finished 5-0 against top 10 opponents. Just the fifth team in the Associated Press era to ever do that, and the first team since the 2019 LSU Tigers, who went 7-0 against top 10 teams. And I would remind you, they also went 4-0 against top 5 teams that year. LSU, still the greatest college football team that I've ever witnessed. They were unbelievable. In fact, Joe Burrow in that game threw for 463 yards and 5 touchdowns. Fernando Mendoza, who you got to love because of his enthusiasm and his what seemingly is innocence when it comes to just about everything, threw for 186, didn't throw for a touchdown, did rush for an amazing touchdown, really was incredible. But the bottom line is Indiana becomes the third consecutive Big Ten team to win a national championship. Here are the national champions. Indiana, as you know, in FBS, Midwest. FCS, Montana State, okay? Division II, of course, the Ferris State Bulldogs. Tony Annese wins another. Division III, Wisconsin River Falls. That's in Wisconsin, obviously. NAIA, Grandview won it all. That's in Iowa. The National Junior College, Division I, Iowa Western. And the National Junior Division III, Illinois, because it's College of DuPage. There you go. That's pretty impressive. All the Midwest. But the primary ones, obviously, in our area, and the last 3, of course, in Michigan, Ohio, and now Indiana. It's a thrilling way to watch college sports. And what an amazing finish to what has been the most astounding 2-year turnaround in the history of college football. Meanwhile, speaking of football, and this is really first and foremost, the Lions have hired Arizona offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as their new man in charge of the offense. So the 38-year-old takes over a Lions offense that ranked 5th in total yards and scoring and 14th in rushing. His offense with the Cardinals ranked 31st in rushing this past year, 23rd in scoring, and 19th in total defense, or total offense, rather. So we'll get to that for sure right away. I want your thoughts on that as soon as possible on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843, or via the text line, Sports Radio 21,000. The fan base is all over the Lions for this hire. Now, I try not to be too reactionary, but you can't help it. Knee-jerk reaction tells you why. Asks you why. Why now? Why not wait? Why not see if Joe Brady becomes available? Did you talk with a guy like Tommy Rees? What was wrong with Zach Robinson? I know everybody wanted Mike McDaniel. I think he's going to be a head coach somewhere. But it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a name that hasn't been associated with the Lions at all through this entire search. And perhaps that's the primary reason people have an issue with it. You heard about Mike Kafka. You heard about Zach Robinson. You heard about Mike McDaniel. You heard about a few others, okay? T. Martin, for example. But you never heard this name. And look, these guys know football and the coaches a hell of a lot better than you and I do. But it's interesting that he is a guy who came in with Jonathan Gannon there in Arizona. That staff gets blown out, and rightfully so. They won 3 games last year. And what you're hearing and what you're reading from Lions writers is about why he wasn't successful last year because of the injuries, because of the problems with certain positions. Kyler Murray got hurt. Jacoby Brissett comes in. I hate to tell you this, but Kyler Murray hasn't been good for 3 years. And I'm not saying Drew Pretzing is going to have a problem with Jared Goff in that regard. I'm just saying, why is that not being mentioned? Well, they were without these guys and this guy and so on and so forth. I mean, how good was Marvin Harrison with the Cardinals? Honestly, people are calling him one of the biggest disappointments in his draft class. And if you want to only look at last year, that's fine because he was up against it. How about when he first started? His team ranked 24th in points and 19th in yards for an offense. Last year, everyone's focused, well, when they were healthy, they were 12th in points. They were 11th in yards. Okay, that's pretty good. And he'll have more weapons with Detroit. That's fine. That is not the point. The point is how this dude got the job compared to some of the other candidates out there. And one of the sources has told people publicly via social media that Dan Campbell and the Lions wanted stability at the position. To me, that screams a guy who's going to be here for a while. And I disagree with that philosophy that we will get to coming up here on X's and Bros throughout the morning. Meanwhile, the Bills have fired their head coach Sean McDermott after 9 years. Regular season-wise, 98-50, all-time record, 8-8 in the playoffs. Here's the weird thing about this situation in Buffalo. Brandon Beane is the general manager. Brandon Beane was promoted. Brandon Beane, as a general manager, drafted 2 Pro Bowl players out of 56 draft picks since they drafted Josh Allen. James Cook was one of them. Dawson Knox was the other. Doesn't look like a real good track record to me as a general manager. And yet, somehow he gets promoted and Sean McDermott gets fired. And by the way, if you looked at social media and you saw the feedback from players on the Bills, calling it asinine, calling it stupid, basically calling it football malpractice, you would think that would somehow, some way, make a difference to the front office. But obviously it doesn't. Pistons, impressive win last night. It was close, but still an impressive win. They've beaten Boston 3 out of the 4 times they played them, I believe. 104-103. They strengthened their lead in the East to 5.5 games. Who was the best player on the floor? Tobias Harris. 25 points to lead the way. Jalen Duren added 18. Cade Cunningham, 16 points, 14 assists, no turnovers. 0 turnovers. That's huge.
He had more assists than the Celtics combined.
Yeah.
Celtics as a team at 13.
Jaylen Brown paced all scorers with 32 and 11, missed a shot at the buzzer. He also missed 2 free throws down the stretch.
And the shot he missed at the buzzer, the defender, Tobias Harris.
Yeah. Pistons have now won 3 of 4, as I mentioned, with Boston. Cade Cunningham, by the way, has been voted as an all-star starter in the Eastern Conference, along with Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Tyrese Maxey. In the West, it's Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steph Curry. Latest college basketball poll keeps Arizona at number 1 for a 6th consecutive week. They're followed by UConn and then Michigan. MSU pulls in at number 10. And the Red Wings are off until tomorrow when they visit Toronto. Here's the poll question of the day, all right? And I was going to do which team impressed you most over the weekend. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. Instead, do you agree with the Lions offensive coordinator hire? Yes or no? Simple as that. Vote as often as you want. At XP Mornings, we'll give the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. That's where we begin our conversation. Yes, the college football national title was big. The Pistons win was big. But the biggest news, I think, is what happened with the Lions. Drew Pretzing is now the offensive coordinator for Detroit. We get your thoughts on it when we return after this. We're brought to you this hour by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft macaroni and cheese, sparkling ice sparkling water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meijer facial tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meijer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meijer.com for details.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
Pretty cool story last night, national championship. I don't know if you heard it, but on that fourth down touchdown run by Fernando Mendoza, all right, with his team up 17-14, it's fourth down and
5, I think.
6. Yeah, fourth down and 5. I was stunned that they went for it, Trent. I don't know about you. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, he said, well, we were hoping they were in a 2 Tampa 2, and would drop 8. And he said they didn't come out in that. Half the field on the snap went zone, half the field went man. That's why when we talk in generalities, and I say we, I include myself, when we talk in generalities and say, well, they've got man here, we got to go more zone. This is what teams do. This is why there are more and more coaches with a defensive mindset being hired. Robert Saleh is probably going to be the Tennessee head coach in all likelihood, either today or tomorrow. He's getting a lot of looks, and for good reason. The defensive mindset is now starting to take over again. You know, there are trends. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, offensive guys, right? Last year, Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur's an offensive guy. They're starting to have more and more defensive-minded guys because they are really messing with quarterbacks' heads. It's not as easy as us just saying, well, you know, you got to go zone here, or you got to go man here, or this is what they had, because teams are mixing their coverages all the time, including at the collegiate level. So he comes up and he sees half zone, half man. Well, he said he was supposed to throw it if it's zone, or excuse me, if it's man. If it's zone, he was supposed to run it. And what does he do? He says, well, when it's half and half, he goes, just screw it. I'm going to bet on myself. And that's one of the more iconic touchdown runs in college football playoff championship history, I would argue. Pretty impressive stuff. And the kid, I'm not saying he's the best quarterback of all time. I'm not saying he had a better year than Joe Burrow or anything like that. I'm just saying to you, that is an incredible story with this Indiana football team. And they're tough not to like, I think. Kurt Signetti was laughed at. Big Ten Media Day, when people asked him and he said, I win, Google me. And people rolled their eyes. Everybody did. All right. Maybe, probably people in Bloomington rolled their eyes. You know what he's done? He's gone 27-2 at IU in the last 2 years. In the last 3 years of coaching, he's gone 38-3. The last 4 years of coaching, he's gone 46-6. So when that dude says, Google me, when you Google him, those are the numbers you're going to see. That is amazing. Most wins in the first 2 seasons, okay, with a school in a long, long time, 27 wins. It's hard to argue, man. It's really hard. And when you look at the strength of player index, based on what, I don't know, but you have these out there suggesting that Indiana was like 74th. They were sandwiched in between Iowa State and Cincinnati from a talent standpoint. You got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because of all the quote-unquote stars associated with players' names. Did you see what Nick Saban said about that star stuff? It's the same thing I've said for a long time. Who's giving them the stars? That's the thing you have to look at. So welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday from 6 until 9. Good for the Big Ten. The Big Ten this year, all right, because everybody was like, oh, remember what we get. What do we get? We get SEC all the time. That's shoved down our throats by whom? Yeah, the 4-letter network. Here's how the Big Ten did this year in the bowl games, 10-4. ACC, 9-5. Conference USA, 4-3. American Football Conference, 5-4. The Big 12, 4-4. The MAC, 2-3. The Sun Belt, 3-5. The SEC, 2-8. 2-8. There you go. And that doesn't mean that, you know, the SEC is the worst conference in America. They're still very deep. You know, the middle of the SEC, how would they fare in the Big Ten? We used to say, well, they would win the Big Ten. You don't say that any longer. Now, is the Big Ten top heavy? In all likelihood, yeah. And are there a couple of teams that aren't necessarily screaming Big Ten pedigree like Oregon and USC? Yes, there are. But they're still in the conference now. And if they're yours and they're playing your teams, then they're in the Big Ten and they're part of it. And they're part of your wins and losses.
I mean, until recently, was the SEC propping up Vanderbilt? Hell no.
Well, but Vanderbilt's been part of the SEC. I thought you were going to say Texas or Oklahoma.
The newcomers, I got you.
Or Texas A&M. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, look,
bottom feeders,
Yeah, but if a team's been in the conference, Indiana, if the Big Ten's going to prop up Indiana, SEC should prop up Vanderbilt. They've been in the Big Ten and the SEC respectively for a long time. But if we're going to start, or if the Big Ten people, it's not we, because I'm a MAC guy, but if the Big Ten or the Midwest is going to brag about USC being a top 25 team or Oregon making it to the college football playoffs, then the SEC should do that with Texas and Oklahoma and Texas A&M, some of the relatively new conferences or new teams in the conference, and teams that I would argue, Trent, you don't always associate. I still view them as Big 12 teams.
Well, me too. I mean, that's how our brains are wired. That's our entire lives. That's how it's been. You've had your Midwest region, that is the Big Ten, and your Southeast region, that's the SEC.
Right. It's going to take us a while for that to truly register.
And just for them to truly embrace it.
A while for Washington and USC and UCLA and Oregon to be Big Ten teams. It took me a long time for the Tigers to view them as something other than the American League East, because that's what they were. The American League was, and then you got the American League West.
When did that change, roughly?
I don't recall, but that's how it was. It was just two divisions in the in baseball: American League East, American League West, National League East, National League West, and then it went to divisions. So it took me a while to get used to that. I mean, now I'm used to it, and so are you, obviously, but that's the way it works. So just a little bit of a nugget there. All right. So last night or yesterday afternoon, news broke that the Lions have decided to go with Drew Petzing as their offensive coordinator. And here's what I've read on social media throughout. It is one of those situations where people are like, you don't even know this guy. This is not directed at me, but it is directed at people who have a problem with the hire. Okay. But people are like, there's a lot of people telling themselves right now that they are bashing a guy hired by the Lions that they know nothing about. Okay. That they won't even bother to see how it correlates on the field. Ignore that he had Josh Dobbs and Jacoby Brissett. And Brissett, by the way, was better than Kyler Murray. All right. And that Brissett was running his offense 2 of the 3 seasons in Arizona, which is not true. Kyler Murray was their leading passer in 2 of the 3 years he was in Arizona. Did Kyler Murray get better? Did the Cardinals get better?
No.
Okay. So, when he was fully healthy, they were slightly above middle of the pack. I always ask people, can we please be balanced and fair? If you're going to use certain criteria for one coach or make excuses for that coach, didn't have Kyler Murray, didn't have Marvin Harrison, didn't have this, that, or the other thing. Did you ever use that type of logic when it came to John Morton? Did you have any issue with him? Oh, I see. It's because of a quarterback and a wide receiver and a running back. I got it. The offensive line doesn't matter. If you said it all, and I'll reiterate, glad John Morton has moved on, needed to move on from him, even though the offense was highly ranked when he left. When he had his play calling duties taken away from him, the Lions offense was still pretty good. They were still statistically successful. Did anyone ever talk about, well, Christian Mahogany's he's a green left guard. Graham Glasgow is a less than center. You have a rookie right guard. You have an injured left tackle. Anybody use that as an excuse? Anybody on social media who wanted him gone, was tired of watching that Lions offensive act under his guidance, anyone ever bring that up? They did not. And I want to know why. Our phone number on the Wire hotline, 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. There's another thing that's associated him with Ben Johnson. Why didn't Ben Johnson hire him in Chicago? Oh, because he was already employed? You could give him an assistant head coaching gig if Ben Johnson loved him that much. We'll get to your thoughts on it as we roll on a Tullymore Tuesday, brought to you by Mitchell Alliance Wealth after this.
At Soaring Eagle, make it a hot Valentine's night. 5-time Grammy nominee El DeBarge and Keith Washington put love in the air. Tickets as low as $50 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office or etix.com. This Valentine's night, make it hot. El DeBarge and Keith Washington at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
From Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City, Cadillac, Lansing, and beyond, you are listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft macaroni and cheese, sparkling ice sparkling water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meijer facial tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meijer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meijer.com for details.
know what's really too bad? It's really too bad that Indiana can't have a day. And we've got people starting to rank the top 10 national champions over the last 10 years and putting Indiana at the bottom. Or that trying to take something away from Fernando Mendoza, who, won the Heisman, now won the national championship, and how he's more of a game manager instead of a game changer because his numbers were 186 yards and no passing touchdowns and all this other stuff against what we would consider a really good defense, right? Okay. I mean, credit to Miami. I mean, their defense was a wrecking machine. It was really
specifically
good.
Their D-line. I mean, they got after him, especially in that second half.
A lot of pressures.
Yep.
And I'm not saying we should focus on the fact that Indiana won the championship with 0 5-stars on its roster and that Mendoza was a 2-star and look at how far he's come. It's a really good story. But we have a tendency, and maybe I'm being hypocritical here, Trent, but we have a tendency to try and tear people down after they've accomplished something. That's the key, right? I'm not tearing Drew Petzing down as the Lions' newest offensive coordinator. I'm wondering why. And we'll get that answer when the Lions meet the press and talk about his credentials, and he meets the press and talks about what his vision is. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have forgotten more football than you and I will ever know combined, all right? Dan Campbell has to feel comfortable with the men who works for him. But here's my issue. If it is true, and this is a big if it's true that he wanted somebody who was going to bring stability to the position, that tells me what? He wants somebody there for a while. He doesn't want to have a revolving door as an offensive coordinator. For me, if you're a manager of a building, if you're a manager of an office, if you're a manager in general, do you not want your underlings to be successful? You want other companies to come in, I don't want to say poach them, but you want other companies interested in them. Isn't it a compliment, the ultimate compliment to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, if teams are knocking on the door for your offensive coordinator? I'm a little confused at why that would surface now, and wonder aloud if you're just looking for a guy.
Well, can I give you a theory quickly?
Yeah.
I think Dan Campbell might still want to call plays.
I don't think that's the case. That's what my initial fear was.
I'm not predicting that. I just think that would make sense. If this is why he went with someone with quote unquote stability, because he knows he has stability, and therefore he wants to keep calling plays. We'll find out.
But this guy called plays in Arizona. I don't think he's taking the job without the ability to call plays. Okay. I just, there's too many times where we look at big names. We just want the big name. Well, let's use Indiana as the example. You didn't know who Curt Cignetti was. Neither did I. You know who he is now. You didn't know about James Madison and Elon and all these different places. Hell no. Okay. But that was Indiana. That was the losingest program in the history of college football. Taking somebody like Curt Cignetti didn't even, move anybody's needle. Okay. People in Bloomington, let alone outside of college football, until he got in front of the Big Ten media and said, Google me. This, and the Lions shouldn't be hiring an offensive coordinator based on moving the needle of X's and BrO's or The Huge Show or any other show throughout the country. There's plenty of people who've come out and said, I like what he does with 13 personnel and 12 personnel. And they're showing us all these different things that he's done really, really well. And he's done it without certain players on his roster. We won't do that with anybody else, but that's what we'll do for Drew Petzing, which makes you wonder just a little bit. I guess my question would be, not that why didn't we see this on the radar, but why wasn't he on anybody else's? How come nobody else is out there going, this is the guy I've got to have? And don't get me wrong. We're not going to sit here and try and convince you that we know all the coordinators. Part of the reason, be honest with yourself, part of the reason you wanted Mike McDaniel is because he was a head coach. Part of the reason that guys like Mike Kafka was enticing to you is because you saw him this year against Detroit. The Giants scared the hell out of the Lions, okay? And he was being mentioned as a possible head coaching candidate. Part of the reason people wanted Cliff Kingsbury is because he's been a head coach and because he's viewed as an offensive genius, might be a little bit far, but an offensive-minded guy. This guy, is he ever viewed as such? Did you even know who he was?
No.
Are you supposed to know who he was? As long as the Lions know who he was, that's the most important thing, right? I would hope so. My problem with a lot of this, and, people are associating it with Ben Johnson. Oh, he was in Ben Johnson's wedding. Like, who gives a crap about that? If Ben Johnson really liked him that much, if he thought that highly of him, when Ben Johnson gets his first ever job as a head coach in the National Football League, why wouldn't he bring one of his groomsmen with him, who's viewed as an offensive guy and has interviewed for the head coaching job? Oh, wait, he did? He interviewed for the head coaching job in Chicago? Yes, that's the report. Why doesn't that scare Dan Campbell and the Lions? I can't figure out the path in which this team took to get this guy and why you had to lock him up so quickly. Let me ask you this. If the Rams lose to Seattle, and we think highly of the Rams, do you not? You think they're pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, they're my pick to win it all right now.
Okay, yeah, I don't think that's unique. I think a lot of people feel that way, right? Seattle's defense is really good. It'll be interesting to see if they can get that done. My point is, if that's the case, and they lose in Seattle, and Nate Scheelheis is available, their passing coordinator, a guy who Sean McVay has said is in on every play call, and we're impressed with the number one offense. And that's what this job is. It's not a head coaching gig. It's looking for an offensive coordinator. Why wouldn't you wait? Why do we have to rush your way through this? Why can't you just go, you know what? Let's let this play out a little bit and see what happens. You've interviewed certain guys, and I give them credit. It's not like they rushed into this, all right? I'm trying to defend them at the same time, all right? And they didn't necessarily immediately go out and get a guy that they felt was really, their guy, that before somebody else comes in and steals him. We can't let this happen. We've got to make sure we get this done, right? Didn't do that. Well, do you think was there a fear that somebody else was going to come in and take hold of Drew Petzing and beat you to the proverbial punch? You read a lot about what's going on in the National Football League. Not all of it is out there because his name wasn't out there associated with the Lions. So if that's the case, maybe somebody else was there. You've interviewed Mike McDaniel. You interviewed Mike Kafka. You interviewed Arthur Smith. You interviewed Jake Peets, who was Seattle's passing game coordinator. You interviewed Zach Robinson. You interviewed T. Martin. You interviewed Tommy Reese. David Shaw from within was interviewed as the Lions passing game coordinator, which never gets mentioned, by the way. Lions were one of the best passing teams in the National Football League. I mean, if you're that high on a guy with the numbers associated with Drew Petzing, what about David Shaw? His numbers from his team are a lot better than Drew Petzing's. Now, he had better talent, Shep. Okay, he still did a lot with the talent, did he not? Didn't use Isaac Tesla the way I wanted him to. Maybe that wasn't on him. Why is it that there was the need to hire this guy was so important that you couldn't wait for, I don't know, one of the guys on the staffs that are playing in the NFC Championship game this weekend?
Yeah, what's the rush? You know what this feels like to me, Shep? It almost feels like a Bill Belichick draft pick back in the Patriots days in the mid, 2010s. He'd pick someone, everyone would be like, who the hell is that? Like, no one else was going to pick him. Why did you pick him so high? And then, all they do is keep winning. So I don't know. That's best case scenario here. But I think most people share your consensus, at least what I saw, And that's our poll question. You can vote XP Mornings. Do you like the hire? Yes or no? I think we're going to get at least 70% no.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is because they don't know who he is, period.
Yeah, and if that's the case,
and
then
the hard thing about that is that if you look at any team, if I gave you, you could name, I could give you a team, and you'd definitely been able to name their head coach. The question is, would you be able to name their coordinator? I mean, Seattle's playing the NFC Championship game. You know that Mike McDonald is their head coach. Who's their offensive coordinator?
Don't know by
Exactly.
name, but the DC,
yeah, it's Clint Kubiak, by the way.
Yes, okay.
But so he's a guy who could be wanted elsewhere.
Is that Gary Kubiak's son?
There's a couple of Kubiaks. I don't believe it is.
Is there a relation there?
I could be wrong. Well, I don't know the whole.
Whatever, not important. I was just curious.
But you said they're DC. What were you going to say about that?
No, I know that guy's face. I don't know his name. To your point, yeah. I don't know who these guys are.
Aiden Dirty is D-U-R-D-E is the defensive coordinator. Although we think Mike McDonald makes the defensive calls.
But it's like you watch these games.
It's an interesting side story to this weekend. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's Mike against Sean on both sides. It's Mike Vrabel against Sean Payton, and it's Mike McDonald against Sean McVay. But I digress.
That's great.
Yeah,
I didn't even put that together. That's cool. Yeah,
it's a little Mike versus Sean on the weekends. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, most of us don't know these coordinators. You know your own team, but you don't know a lot of the teams outside of your market.
No, and what I was going to say was at the very least, if you watch as much football as we do, which many of you out there listening do, like, these guys' faces sometimes because they'll show them on the sideline with the clipboard or a play sheet, but you don't retain all their names. It's impossible to. In fact, you don't retain a handful.
We just got done watching, the Chicago Bears play thrilling game. When I think Chicago offense, I think Ben Johnson. I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
They still have an offensive coordinator though. Anybody know who Declan Doyle is?
No.
Right. I mean, what's his pedigree?
But then, of course, we know Dennis Allen on defense, but that's because to your
he's been
point,
head coach.
Exactly.
He's been a head coach for the New Orleans Saints and failed miserably, right? So
we know who Arthur Smith is in Pittsburgh. We know that because he was a head coach.
Yeah, and because, there's if you listen to a lot of fantasy football podcasts, people can't stand him as an offensive coordinator. But so that's kind of my point. I'm just like, wait a minute. What was the need there? Maybe the Lions, I'm sure the Lions know a hell of a lot more than we do about the marketplace and the landscape of what's going on. Maybe they felt like if we don't hire this dude, somebody else is going to, because you're seeing other coaches getting jobs and more coaches are going to get jobs. So we've vetted everybody that we felt was really important. And you can't deny that. When you have McDonald and Kafka and Smith and Peets and Robinson and Martin and Reese and Shaw, that's 8 guys, including Drew Petzing. So 9 guys by reports. Maybe there were more backward or back room deals and interviews that we weren't aware of. But 9 guys were vetted for this job. It's not like they just went, hey, I'm really impressed with that guy. I don't need to talk to anybody else. So they went with 9 different guys from different styles, different teams, different responsibilities, some a passing game, different backgrounds. If I hear one more person tell me, though, Drew Petzing is familiar with the division, knock it off. He knows what hotel to stay in Chicago. What he did with Mike Zimmer in Minnesota is completely different than what the team and what the league is or division is now. Caleb Williams wasn't in the division. J.J. McCarthy wasn't in the division. The Lions in 2019 look a hell of a lot different now than they did back then when he was with Minnesota. So I get tired of the division. He knows the division. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? But the Lions have vetted quite a few. They felt like this was the guy. There are still a couple of other guys, and that's just in the NFC, who you would look, because you're not going to look at Josh McDaniel. All right? You're not. I mean, that guy's had his chances, and he's been really good as an offensive coordinator in New England. Really good. when you think of Denver, so I've given you the two offensive coordinators who might be, when you got Kubiak and you've got Scheelheis, even though he's not the offensive coordinator. So you got Clint Kubiak and you've got Nathan Scheelheis, the passing game coordinator, two guys who I think would be an interesting interview. All right. If you look at Denver, because we've already mentioned New England, if you look at the Denver Broncos, when you think of their offense, what immediately comes to mind?
Sean Payton.
Okay. Do you know who their offensive coordinator is? He's a former Lion coordinator.
No.
His name is Joe Lombardi.
Oh, I remember.
I covered him here while he was the OC, I believe, under Rod Marinelli.
No, I think it was 2014. It was brief. Because remember, he's the one that got fired for Jim Bob Cooter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But that was Caldwell at that time.
Oh, was that Caldwell?
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, look at how much success, quote unquote, they're having now in Denver. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's the one who gets to say, I'm the OC.
Yeah, he's not
He may not call the plays, but don't kid yourself. Offensive coordinators, look, if we're going to sit there and say John Morton was part of the game planning and that's part of the problem, Joe Lombardi's probably part of the game planning for Denver. He may not call all the plays,
probably a big
but
part
he's
of it.
recommending certain plays. He's recognizing certain things, right? So those are your four offensive coordinators left in the football playoffs. Two guys would not have been a bad reach for the Lions to discuss their opportunity with, unless they felt this guy was going to be scooped up by somebody else that we're unaware of. A lot of these guys have good credentials. The whole belief, the whole selling of Drew Petzing to us as a Lions fan base, and I suppose none of it's ever going to be good enough until we actually see what he does. I guess the people who are a little bit skeptical would immediately say, well, wait a minute now. Who couldn't do that with this type of talent? All I can say is Dan Campbell better get this right. He better have this right. If he doesn't have it right and he goes 1-3 in offensive coordinators, he'll be on the clock. This hour has been brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth. It's a Tullymore Tuesday on the Michigan Sports Network.
Soar to new heights of winning with Eagle Casino and Sports. Enjoy your favorite games wherever you are, whether at home or on the go. Dive into exciting slots, spin the roulette wheel, or challenge yourself with virtual table games, all at your fingertips. Sign up now and opt in to receive a deposit match up to $1,500 for the casino, plus up to 100 free spins. Download the Eagle Casino and Sports app today and experience winning with just a tap. Go you! Must be located in Michigan and 21 years or older. Other conditions apply. Visit playeagle.com to join the action. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft macaroni and cheese, sparkling ice, sparkling water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meijer facial tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meijer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meijer.com for details.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
second hour of the program. Glad you're with us here on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan. You can give us a call on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. You could text us, Sports Radio 21,000. Perhaps the discussion of the Lions offensive coordinator has not moved people. I thought for sure there would be some passion there, okay, and that they would have an opinion. That appears to be not necessarily the case here throughout the state. Just in case people were wondering, Drew Petzing is the new offensive coordinator. Here's a lot of what I've heard about Drew Petzing, okay? He establishes the run, which is great. You know, I mean, you've got to have that in order for Detroit to be successful. They're going to have to be able to run the football. Is that fair? I mean, they require what? Play action. Okay. And Detroit was really successful a few years ago. They averaged 136 yards per game and reached the NFC Championship game a lot because of their ability to run the football and keep defenses off balance and so on and so forth. Then in 2024, Detroit was able to run the football. They ranked 6th. So in 2024, they ranked 5th. And then last year, they ranked 6th at 146.5. All right. Similar to that of Arizona. Arizona did a good job of running the football. They ranked 4th in 2023. They ranked 7th in 2024. And then this past year, while Detroit was, middle of the pack, Arizona was second to last. Now, they'll tell you it's a lot of it has to do with personnel. That's fair. They'll also tell you they incorporate, Trey McBride and the years that he's had. Well, Sam Laporta's had really good years too. Sam Laporta was hurt this year. Sam Laporta's rookie year, where he was an all-pro second team, 86 rocks, 889 yards, 10 touchdowns. His sophomore season, 60 catches, 726, 7 scores. This year, he was hurt. Again, people will use the fact that the Cardinals couldn't run the football this year because their running backs were hurt. James Conner was hurt. Shep, what do you expect to do? Isn't that interesting? Lions had an injured tight end. Are we going to use that? No, we're not using that excuse. You know why? Because you're supposed to be better. You're supposed to be able to overcome that. Now, Arizona played in the toughest division in football this year. I think the NFC West was the best division in football. Would you agree with that? When you've got Seattle, you've got Los Angeles, you've got San Francisco. That's the toughest you can get, right? I think the Lions had the toughest you could get 2 years ago, or at least last year in 2024, when you had 3 teams in double-digit wins and all 3 teams, three of the 4 teams make the playoffs. It's pretty convenient. That's all I'm saying. It's very convenient when we hear these people come out and suggest how good this hire is and all the things that he's had to overcome compared to some of the things that the Lions had to overcome this year. And I'm not going to try and convince you, because I don't believe it, convince you that, hey, they should have kept things the way they are. I guess the thought was, you know what? This is an attractive job, right? It is. I would argue this is the most attractive this is the most attractive coaching job out there. That was before Buffalo came up. When Sean McDermott got fired, would you think Buffalo became the number one destination? I mean, most coaches would say, I want to work with Josh Allen. I want to work with James Cook. I want to work with those 3 tight ends. I want to work with Deion Dawkins, Matt Milano, players like that. We're going to shore up the defense. I got a general manager who's now bumped to president, even though of his 56 draft picks since Josh Allen, he's only drafted 2 Pro Bowlers, Dawson Knox and James Cook. He gets a bump up. Head coach gets fired. They lose the last 3 playoff games by 3 points. Anyway, I would think Detroit was one of, if not the most attractive spots. And I think a lot of people are expecting more. Just because you have a big name doesn't mean that you're a better choice. As I've said, we have seen plenty of players who were less known become stars. And we have seen plenty of coaches who were less known become better coaches. Our phone number on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. The text is Sports Radio 21,000. Thank goodness for Freddie. Freddie sends us a text. He says, the Mendoza run was a Tebow run-esque play. Will he be more Tim Tebow in the NFL or Drew Brees? I'll pick Brees. I don't know about that. That's a tough one to measure. But he also says Kansas City hired Eric Bieniemy yesterday. Lions would have been better off hiring him. He has much more experience and with a great quarterback. Well, again, I think that's one of those things. I thought Eric Bieniemy was going to be a head coach someday. His days in Kansas City, I mean, he was very successful there as the OC. So I really thought he'd be a head coaching candidate. I don't know what happened there. But again, because we've recognized Eric Bieniemy, not because he was a running back at Colorado, but because he's been in the coaching circles for a long time, there should be a little bit of a red flag that a guy who was that successful in Kansas City and had that rapport with players like he reportedly did not get an opportunity. I don't know what the reason for that would be. I just was, I guess, and this is my own fault, I guess I was expecting more. When I know, and this is not homerism, this is not a bias on the part of the Detroit Lions, but when you know you have as much talent on the offensive side of the ball as they do, when you've seen it reach such high levels, both running and passing, when you recognize you have a top 10 wide receiver, top 5 in some people's eyes, you have another wide receiver, I mean, 2 guys who've gone over 1,000 yards for a second straight year. You have a top 5 running back. When healthy, you have a top 5 tight end. You have a top 3 right tackle, and you have a top 10 quarterback. Is that fair? Okay. You need some things to work on the front offensive line, and you've got another wide receiver who probably wasn't utilized nearly enough. That's not all on just the last offensive coordinator. That's on the last coaching staff. There's a lot to like there. This team endears coaches. And when you have something like that, similar to what maybe the Bills have, when you have a blue chip piece that is enticing, asking you, calling you, most people wanting to work with that piece, how is it this is what you get? That's what a lot of people would think. Doesn't mean it's fair, and it sure as hell doesn't mean it's right. The easy thing to do today is say, you know what? What we should do is require some patience here, because this dude is going to be the offensive coordinator. We don't know what it's going to be like until he takes over. But first blush makes you think you underachieved a little bit. 866-838-4843 on a Tullymore Tuesday. We're brought to you this hour by Meyer.
Save a good deal more during the Meyer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft macaroni and cheese, sparkling ice, sparkling water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meyer facial tissue. The Meyer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meyer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meyer.com for details.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Hey, DraftKings Sportsbook's the official sports betting partner of the NFL. Make every moment feel bigger than it really is. And with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in the moment. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, like George Kittle, you still get paid in cash with DraftKings. You're covered through the entire half. Why bet player props anywhere else? Doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Best just $5. And if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the code HUGE. That code is HUGE, and turn $5 into 300 bonus bets if your bet wins. It's in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants some help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Michigan only. Eligibility or restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. And for additional terms, go to dkng.com/audio. This is a limited time offer. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday from 6 until 9. Here's the updated head coaching list in the NFL. All right. The Titans are going to hire Robert Saleh. In fact, I think Adam Schefter has tweeted out this morning that is breaking news. That's going to happen.
Good for him for getting a second chance at that, by the way, because the Jets
Yeah.
just have such a horrible reputation for ruining coaches. And we had Herm Edwards on last week, and he kind of poked fun at that a little bit, even though he lasted, 4 seasons there? But
they do have a reputation of not doing things right.
yeah, just
And I don't know if it's the coaches, the staff, the draft picks, the poking. Like Woody Johnson, who's the owner, does not get nearly enough blame outside of New York for meddling as much as he does. When you think of ownership meddling, you think of Jerry Jones because he's front and center all the time and he's the general manager and all this other stuff. Well, Woody Johnson has general managers. He's the owner. And it sure seems like he does a lot of things wrong, all right, including hire the wrong guy or get rid of the wrong guy at the wrong time, or just not go about your business the right way. You don't go about your business by drafting certain players, and that's what they've done. So Robert Saleh, after going to San Francisco, oh no, Cliff Kingsbury hired Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, knowing that he could probably be another head coach somewhere. Why would you do that? I want stability at my defense.
you mean Kyle Shanahan, but yes.
Or Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, and he's done a hell of a job, right? Robert Saleh did a hell of a job. Without Fred Warner, without Bosa, without a lot of players on that side of the ball, they were still able to get to the playoffs. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't I just say they lost a lot of guys and they still won? Arizona were using all kinds of excuses on the reason why they couldn't get it done is because they lost a lot of guys. Don't use it for the Lions. And then conveniently, did we use it for San Francisco? Yes, but they still won. Okay, so Robert Saleh is in Tennessee as their head coach. The Giants, obviously you know by now, John Harbaugh. The Falcons, I hope you know by now, Kevin Stefanski. And the Dolphins, Jeff Hafley, who was the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, by the way. That leaves these jobs open. The Bills, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns. Amazing, isn't it? Those three teams in the same division. The one guy who ends up saving his job is Zach Taylor. Doesn't seem to make much sense. The Cardinals and the Raiders. So 4 jobs have been filled. 6 jobs are left. Of the Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Cardinals, and Raiders, what's the most appealing job?
Bills, hands down.
For sure. It's the Bills and then the Ravens. And why is that? It's in all likelihood because they have franchise quarterbacks. Right?
Yep. And the only reason the Bills, I think, have the leg up on the Ravens, which maybe this is unfair of me at this point, but it's just what the division looks like. At least that's how I look at it. Like I give the Bills the edge because they get to play in a little bit of a weaker division. Although I know what you're about to say, the Patriots are, but you're taking over a team that just made the playoffs. In the Ravens case, that's not the case. So,
well, yeah, Ravens are a year removed from winning 13 games.
And that's why I say I marginally give it to the Bills, but then the Ravens are right there.
If you're going to look at the division, I'd give it to the Ravens, to be honest with you. because you got Cincinnati at 6-11, you got Cleveland at 5-12. Pittsburgh was a weak 10-7. You look at the Bills division, even Miami was somewhat competitive at times. I mean, they were under 500, but they've got some pieces. New England, Buffalo, Jets are terrible. That tells you all you really need to know about that division. So I would probably side, if you're going to look at the division, a winnable division, it would be Baltimore. But I think it's Buffalo. Just keep this in mind with Buffalo. They really don't know what they're doing in the draft, which is pretty blatantly obvious by what Brandon Beane has done. As I mentioned earlier in the show, this is a guy who, since Josh Allen, 56 draft picks, only 2 have become Pro Bowlers. Not all pros, but Pro Bowlers. Dawson Knox and James Cook. And the other thing is, when you look at it, this Buffalo team has more wins, fewest losses, scored the most points, given up the fewest amount of points in the last 6 years. And their point differential is over 900. Nobody else is over 800. Let's go to the phone lines. The Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. Who's up?
Yeah, I wanted to get to this as quickly as possible because Aaron in Portage is calling. He is a Arizona Cardinals fan. He can tell us a little bit about
Hi,
Petsy.
Aaron. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking the call.
Yeah, thanks for placing it.
I want to say that, I was listening to you earlier. Yes, Drew Petzing will need some time in Detroit because it's different personnel. However, over the last 3 years, unfortunately, he has been more disliked in Arizona than Cliff Kingsbury was with the offense. He has kind of lacked situational awareness with down and distance, using the 13 and 12 personnel in all the wrong down and distances, including there's 2 examples this year. I think one of them was against Jacksonville. We have a 4th and 5 in overtime. And instead of, taking, 5 or 6 yard route, just get the first down, we throw a go route to a wide receiver who has only had 12 career targets, and he gets plastered in triple coverage, and we lose the game. It was not a good time with Petzing. Yes, he did have McBride. He did have Marvin Harrison, but he didn't even know how to use Marvin Harrison. In fact, when Michael Wilson was doing better than a first-round pick, it kind of just goes to show that he didn't choose to target, his better playmakers. But I will say this, probably the reason why Petzing got the job in Detroit was because he has ties to Kevin Stefanski from when he was in Cleveland. And maybe they thought he was going to get hired down to Atlanta. And I don't know if Detroit sees Atlanta as a big NFC foe or is on the rise, but that could be a reason why they move so quickly. But Jared Goff is a much different quarterback than Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett. And they also have a lot more weapons. So it may actually work out a little bit better because Drew Petzing loves to run the ball, especially, with Imari DiMercato and all the running backs that we had this year. So I'm going to hope the best for you guys, but I will wait until I see any improvement. Thanks for taking my call.
That's good intel. Thank you, Aaron. Greatly appreciate that. You bring up Marvin Harrison. So, the running of the football is a great little nugget, and we appreciate that. The Marvin Harrison thing is interesting. Do you target a guy who seemed to have way more drops than you ever thought he would, and target a guy who you would argue had more drops than he did at Ohio State? Many people thought he was the best wide receiver in the country, and I get that. His rookie year, he was targeted over 111 times. I think it was 116 times. This past year, he was hurt, but he was still targeted over 600 times, or over 70 times for 600 yards. So is that on the player or is that on the OC? I don't know. You're right about McBride. We brought that up. I would remind people, Sam Laporta, when healthy, still pretty damn effective. So he'll be able to utilize that. The running game will be very interesting. I don't think Detroit had a problem with their running game this year. Okay. I think the biggest problem, well, obviously the offensive line was an issue. The biggest problem was, how did you create a balance between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery? And that's what Drew Petzing might have to sell you on. Great point about Kevin Stefanski. Maybe they felt the need was now because Kevin Stefanski might bring him with him to Atlanta. Maybe he brings Tommy Rees, since Tommy Rees was with him in Cleveland. We're back after this. We're brought to you this hour by Meyer.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
You're listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network. We'll be right back after this break, but while you're waiting, be sure to vote on our daily poll question presented by MitchLyonsWealth.com at XB Mornings on X.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Been a good day. No, obviously a blessing to be named All-Star starter. All glory to God. Super thankful for that. Thankful for my team, my coaches, fans, everybody that voted for me. It means a lot. It means a ton to me and my family. And then, tonight, just a battle, 48-minute battle. Both teams really came with it, and to come out with this win was huge for us.
It's Cade Cunningham after finding out he is an all-star starter. Good for him, man. I mean, such a good player. And he's going through a little bit of a wrist injury, okay? So the shooting wasn't necessarily there last night for Boston. Other guys stepped forward, which was great. I mean, Tobias Harris was fantastic. Jalen Duren was really good. Love the balance that they had in their offense. Cade Cunningham, as oftentimes we go through this, and I've said this to time and time again, when we go through this, I've said, look, here's a guy who, if you can affect a game in ways other than just scoring, then Cade Cunningham is doing his job. And last night he affected the game in other ways than scoring. All right. Sure, he had 16 points, but he had 14 assists and no turnovers. And that's the most, I think that's a real positive sign for me, because going into the game, and we said this the other day, not that you're nitpicking, but if we can nitpick about certain athletes like Derek Skubal and like Jared Goff, and those guys are similar to that of Cade Cunningham. They're that important to their team. Let's put it that way. Cade Cunningham, to me, you'd like him to be a little bit better in securing the basketball. He's third in the league in turnovers. Luka Doncic has more, and one other player has more. I forget who it is. So him taking care of the basketball the way he does last night, you hope is a sign moving forward that he's figured certain things out. He's second in the league in assists. Only Nikola Jokic has more. And Jokic, as we all know, injured, missing a lot of time. So we'll see what happens there. Cade's missed some time as well. But I love that aspect of his game last night against Boston. I thought it was vital, and it was really good. Him as an all-star is, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a like, no kidding. Duh. What else should happen? Of course, he should be an all-star. It's just a nice spin and addition to his season so far. How Giannis Antetokounmpo gets there is strictly name recognition. I think it's great that Tyrese Maxey is there. I agree with Jaylen Brown. I agree with Jalen Brunson. Cade Cunningham is a popular guy in the NBA and around the league, not just with fans, but with players as well. And when you get a guy like that sharing the spotlight, name recognition-wise, or at least in this situation, with Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Steph Curry and Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, these are big names, okay? The one name that some people would argue doesn't fit, unless you follow basketball closely enough, and you should, Tyrese Maxey. When you look at his numbers, it absolutely fits. He's absolutely an all-star. He should be in the MVP conversation. And Cade Cunningham should be in the MVP conversation as well. Not just because of based on his statistics, but look at what he has meant to this team, this organization, this city, and the league. How good he is. And this team is off to one of its better starts in a long time. They win last night over Boston. They are a team, I find it fascinating that both Detroit teams, you look at how good the Red Wings have been so far this year, and I'm not saying that they're built to last, but I like the way they play the game. They've got 30 wins. The Pistons picked up win number 31 last night. And they have not gone into any extended lull, all right? They're really good at home, 17-4. The 17 wins, the most in the East. On the road, they have the second most road kills of any team. Only Boston has more. They've beaten Boston 3 out of 4. I know Boston doesn't have Jason Tatum, Okay. Detroit has collected 31 wins. Some of those wins, so because they've played, 41 games now. So if they played 41 games and they've had Cade Cunningham for 36, you can do the math. Obviously, they've got 5 wins in there without their team's best player. What does that tell you? Does it tell you that the player isn't as effective as they should be? Or does it tell you that that team is able to rise to the occasion with other players? I would also mention, as we're looking at this, I would expect Jalen Duren to be an all-star, which makes a lot of sense. Just like with the Red Wings, you've got the Olympic break, but when you're looking at guys who would be all-star caliber players there, you would look at Larkin, you would look at Seider, you would look at DeBrincat. What Alex DeBrincat has done has been pretty impressive. Here's a guy who's on pace, for a better year than he had a year ago. It's really impressive stuff. I mean, I'm not sure how many people are following this team as closely as we probably should be, but you get certain names in this league, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and I'm not suggesting either of Detroit's players or anything like that, but DeBrincat's got 26 goals, man. I mean, he's 5th in the league in scoring, and in terms of goals, I should say. He's 5th in the league in goals scored. Not sure people recognize that. He was 9th in the league in goals a year ago. I think the last Red Wing to finish in the top 10 in goals in back-to-back years was Steve Yzerman. Believe it or not. Anyway, I digress a little bit. You get a guy like Cade Cunningham, it's not just for Detroit, it's for a guy who's got an all-around game. I would argue that he could be as close to a throwback player as you could find. And when I say throwback, I mean a guy who does it all. He rebounds well. He's better defensively now. He's a very gifted passer. He's a really good shooter. Now, does he have weaknesses? You bet. I mean, we talked about this, I think, yesterday. His free throw shooting needs to be better, and his three-point shooting needs to be better. But, and we talked about this because I think it was the Free Press that gave him a B+. Listen, man, Trent and I both agreed it would be an A-. Those are the areas where he needs to lift his game. Here's the one thing that probably isn't mentioned nearly enough. Maybe it is in Detroit. Maybe it's just not nationally, is the leadership aspect. And I know, I mean, people immediately start shaking their head just a little bit and like, give me a break, man. How do you measure leadership? Look at what other players say about you. When you have veterans, like Tobias Harris has said this, when you have veterans acknowledging how good of a leader he is, that tells you something. It's kind of like when we were talking about the NFL and some of the hires that have taken place, or some of the offensive coordinators who should be discussed. When I bring up Nate Schilheis in Los Angeles, Sean McVay says his passing coordinator is in on all of it, all the game planning, all the suggestions of plays. He is heavily involved in all that. When you've got an offensively gifted, minded coach like Sean McVay mentioning that about a member of his staff, then that should have additional credence to it. And I would argue the same thing when it comes to players. When you have other players, especially veteran players, when do you decide a guy is a veteran? When do you turn that page? I don't know. I mean, that's up to a lot of different people now. Like next year, Tate Ratledge would be a veteran, right? I don't know. But he's played enough where you should understand that. And he should understand too. I mean, and I think he does. He even said that earlier in the year in his rookie season. I think it was after game 4 or game 5. It's like I'm no longer a rookie. So I don't know when you determine what a veteran is, but we see guys who are more experienced in the NBA acknowledging just how good of a leader Cade Cunningham is. And that's a big deal. CBSSports.com came out with this. Halfway through the NBA season, it's time for their Contender Tiers installment. Movements from the first edition. Still the champs, they've got Oklahoma City Thunder. All right? No kidding. All right? Oklahoma City is really good. I mean, maybe there comes a time where I think a lot of people feel like enough is enough. I'm tired of them. They get a lot of love. Folks, they're 38-8. All right. So got to give them a ton of credit. 20-2 at home. You don't go into Oklahoma City and win very often. All right. 16-5 on the road. Impressive stuff. A point differential of 13.5 points per game. Let's put it in perspective. The Pistons beat teams on average by 7 points a game. Oklahoma City does it twice as well. So you understand, I know you do, that why they would be considered the elite of the NBA right now. They should be. And then they've got the biggest challengers. And here's where I have a little bit of an issue. The Pistons, of course. All right. Then they've got the Spurs. Now, I don't know how closely you're following the Western Conference, but San Antonio is pretty damn good. They've got one fewer win than the Pistons. But they've also played a couple of more games than Detroit. But they're playing well. They've won 3 in a row. They were able to survive when Victor Wembanyama got hurt and came off the bench, similar to what Detroit has been able to do with Cade Cunningham when he got hurt. They've got the Denver Nuggets. Well, Denver at 29-14, man, still able to play high-end basketball to the tune of third in the Western Conference, despite some key man games to injuries. And then they've got the Minnesota Timberwolves at 27-16. I don't think those teams are better than Detroit. I think the West is better than the East. I think you would agree with that. But Detroit has been, and I oftentimes look at how is a team doing against the other conference. Detroit's 9-4 against the West. All right. I think you have 8 teams in the West who have winning records against the East, 7 teams in the East who have winning records against the West, including Detroit at 9-4. So I think that plays a factor into my mindset. Here's what CBS Sports.com writes. Pistons have the second best record in the NBA. They've made light work of the Eastern Conference, where they're 21-6. That includes recently throttling the Knicks by 31. The Knicks got blown out last night, by the way, by Dallas at home. So they've really struggled at home as of late. And they got booed. Cooper Flagg and company went in there. Doug Christie and company went in there and beat the living daylights out of the New York Knicks. And that fan base was livid. And New York's having a decent year. It's not a great year, 25-18. But part of the problem I think they're having right now is their struggles at home. They are under 500 on the road. And at home, they are a mild 16-6. And I think they've lost 3 or 4 in a row at home. And I think a lot of this has to do with not always just losing, but, the old cliche, how you lose. And when New York goes out there and shoots 40% and they only go 9 of 31, there's an issue. So the New York faithful let them have it. Anyway, they say Detroit is a team that has puffed out its chest about being a conference contender. Detroit is second in defensive rating and nearly top 10 in offense. Cade Cunningham is a lock to make All-NBA for a second straight season, currently third on the MVP odds. Only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic are better. That to me makes no sense. Sorry. It's based on names. All right. Luka Doncic is a one-way player. Simple as that. And the Lakers are a good team. They're not a great team. They're a good team. Detroit, great is overused. Detroit's a very good basketball team. And Cade Cunningham's the best player on that team, and I would say a top 3 player in the conference. Luka Doncic, I suppose, is a top 3 scorer in the West as well. You got Anthony Edwards, you got Luka Doncic, you've got Nikola Jokic, you got Victor Wembanyama, you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously. Luka Doncic doesn't play any defense whatsoever. Anyway, they say Jalen Duren has taken a massive leap. They're getting contributions up and down the roster from everyone from Asar Thompson to Duncan Robinson, who was really good last night, to Karis LeVert, J.B. Bickerstaff for Coach of the Year. All right. Well done. Well said for the most part. when you read all of those accolades and you recognize how good Detroit has been, how steady they have been, does it give you pause to think maybe you don't need to make a trade? Maybe the way this team is constructed right now, maybe the way they are is good enough. Now, I would remind you that, certain names associated with Detroit, Michael Porter Jr., have had incredible seasons, okay? And they're going to, Brooklyn's awful. And when you've got a guy like Michael Porter Jr., who's averaging 26 points per game to lead them, and a guy who averages 7.5 boards per game to help them out in that regard. And by the way, as a key guy and an important piece of their offense, also does a nice job in distributing the basketball, third on the team in assists as well. That would be a massive, like if you had to take a player from every team, he's an all-star. He might be an all-star even though you wouldn't have to take a player from every team. That's not how the NBA works. It doesn't work like Major League Baseball. He might be one anyway because of the type of player that he is. Think about adding that to your lineup. The more you read about certain guys on this team, Jaden Ivey, I don't know about you, but the more I recognize and look at it and go, I just don't see this happening as an extension. You might feel the need to do just that and move on from him and get a guy like Michael Porter Jr. only because you know you're not going to re-sign a guy like Jaden Ivey. You know the Tobias Harris contract is up, and he's in all likelihood going to move on. And you're going to be so good for the near future, you won't have to worry about a first-round pick. I don't know if that's what would get it done, but that's something you could actually put into play. And that would be a big bonus. On the other hand, with the way Tobias Harris played last night, and I know it's not just one game. He's been good all year. You don't feel like you're pushing that panic button. It's a totally different feel than how you felt with the Lions or the Tigers, that you're needing that missing piece. The way the Pistons played last night, especially with those guys and your best player not giving you a ton of points, I'm not sure that's how you feel anymore. This hour has been brought to you by Meijer. More coming here on X's and Bros after a quick timeout on a Tullymore Tuesday.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft Macaroni and Cheese, Sparkling Ice Sparkling Water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meijer Facial Tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meijer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meijer.com for details.
It's time to go on the court with Tim Stout.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, it's a new day. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com. Michigan State's basketball team has that one West Coast trip, okay? Every Big Ten season, the Spartans lost both games a year ago at UCLA and Southern Cal. Well, now the Washington game is done, and Tuesday night at Oregon, a team that has been dangerous and a team just this last week that defeated Ohio State 81-74. The Spartans will be glad to get back home because that's the final 3-time zone away road trip. Maryland coming to the Breslin Center on Saturday, and Maryland has struggled for most of the season. The Spartans are still intent on going into February in the heart of the Big Ten race. And remember, right around the corner now, January 30th, Michigan comes to East Lansing for the first of two as the season continues to heat up.
Huge here with a message to all of you Lions fans. My good friend Josh Garvey, who runs Doran Mayhew's Grand Rapids office, will join me every Thursday with former Lion Lomas Brown, and we'll go inside the Lions each and every week all the way through the Super Bowl. Doran Mayhew is proud to partner with the Huge Show, and we're proud to have a guy like Josh Garvey join us in studio every week. If you have a Lions question or comment, you can drop them at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook. Doran Mayhew, proud to be a part of the West Michigan community and across the entire state with their corporate worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan. So make plans every Thursday, 5 p.m. It's Josh Garvey, who is the managing shareholder at Doran Mayhew's GR office, with Lomas Brown on The Huge Show going inside the Lions every Thursday at 5 p.m.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
All right, back with you here on X's and Bros Monday through Friday from 6 until 9. John Scott is a Bills TV reporter. We're going to talk with him about the firing of Sean McDermott at 8:18. Get some thoughts on that as we go around the NFL a little bit. So that's kind of fun in case you missed it last night. I doubt you did. If you're listening to this show, you're a sports fan, all right? And you stayed up and watched the game last night. But you also know that the Lions have hired offensive coordinator from Arizona, Drew Petzing, as their new man in charge of the offense. 38-year-old takes over an offense that was 5th in total yards and scoring, 14th in rushing. His offense with the Cardinals this past season ranked 31st in rushing, 23rd in scoring, 19th in total offense. And, you got to be fair when you're analyzing all these things. The fair point for Drew Petzing is that he dealt with a lot of injured players. My issue with that has been the fact that this is a team, and look, we had Aaron from Portage calls. He's a huge Arizona Cardinals fan. So he recognizes some of the shortcomings, but also what he had to deal with. We rarely used that excuse for anybody here. That's all.
That's why I'm glad you brought that up because, it was great to get Aaron's insight. Actually, I love that because, that's someone who watched all 17 Cardinals games, over the last 3 seasons. So he can tell you what the tendencies are of Petzing. But when you throw in the caveat of, well, so-and-so was hurt, he didn't have much to work with. We never said that for John Morton last year. Not one bit. They said, get this guy out of here.
Wanted him out. We wanted him out.
And they said the same thing about Anthony Lynn.
I understand that. I have no problem with that. I wanted him out after the season as well, okay? At some point, you recognize, you're like, there's a disconnect there. I didn't think there was the greatest hire in the first place, but whatever. But what people are asking us to do, and I understand it. I do. I understand why the team would ask us to just hold on a second. Don't get too ahead of your skis here.
One way or another.
Who he is, okay? Not everybody, and I've said this time and time again, not everybody knows the coordinators. Don't know all these coordinators. So to say this is a terrible hire would be ridiculous. To say it's an unenthusiastic hire is probably pretty damn dead on.
Underwhelming. Yeah.
Okay. It's an underwhelming hire. And I get it. People are like, well, he didn't have Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray led his team, led the Arizona offense in 2 of the 3 years that Drew Petzing was the offensive coordinator. Okay. When you sit there and go, well, he didn't have as much. He had him enough to have him lead his team in passing in the first 2 years that he was there. And some would say Jacoby Brissett was better than Kyler Murray.
And I believe the best the Cardinals ever did was 8-9.
I think the biggest thing I want to see from offensive coordinators is I want to see them direct an offense that gets the ball in the end zone. It's great that you run the ball well. It's great that you pick up a lot of yards. I want to know, are you getting the ball in the end zone? And Arizona, under his guidance, fair or unfair, in scoring, ranked 23rd, 12th, and 24th. And when you say, well, you're going to focus only on the year that they ranked 23rd or 12th, I should say, and ranked 11th in yards because they were healthy, does that say anything about the coaching, that they can't get other players to perform? Because that's what it said about our coaches. And let's take John Morton out of it. Kelvin Shepard, by the time the season was over, people wanted him gone. Why? Because the defense couldn't rush the passer on a regular basis, and because the defense was not preventing teams from reaching the end zone.
And that secondary was not quite up to snuff ever since
the Legion
of Whom. No, not at all.
Okay.
And a lot of fans were frustrated.
So tell me this. Why are we willing to do that for him or hold him accountable, whether it be Kelvin Shepard or John Morton? We're willing to do that, but we're not willing to do that when it comes to a guy who's about to enter into Lions coaching history.
Who we know, let's face it, nothing about. None of you knew who he was. I didn't either. So I'm not trying to, get on a high horse here.
If that's the case, then just maybe we shouldn't be judging it at all. But we're just bringing up information here. I'm trying to figure out why there was such a need to get him right away. Aaron from Portage called in and said, maybe it's because Kevin Stefanski became the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Kevin Stefanski became the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons the other day. Why wasn't that one of the first phone calls he made? Maybe it was. Why wouldn't he have hired him right away? He doesn't have to go through an interview process with him, does he? He already knows him. It's from his quote-unquote coaching tree. Why didn't he do that right away? I don't know. Okay. Why weren't other teams interested in him? I don't know. It's okay there for us to say certain times we're not so sure about it. But here's what we do know. While people are making excuses for it, those same excuses were not used for anybody who was on the Lions coaching staff this past season.
The double standards get a little frustrating sometimes.
It's a huge double standard. Again, I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. It's a puzzling choice at this time, especially when there are a couple of guys who you maybe could have enticed to come here as an offensive coordinator, guys who are still left in the NFL tournament. All right. I know you watched it last night. You watched Indiana claim its first ever national championship. Good for them. They beat Miami 27-21. It was a thrilling game. The spread, I believe, was 8.5, and Miami covered. Indiana now becomes the first team since the 1894 Yale Bulldogs to finish 16-0. They finished 5-0 against top 10 opponents, the fifth team in the AP era ever to do that, and the first team since the 2019 LSU Tigers, who went 7-0. Pistons beat the Celtics 104-103. Tobias Harris was fantastic at 25 points. Jalen Duren was a rebound shy of a double-double. Cade Cunningham had 16 points, 14 assists, no turnovers. Detroit held Jaylen Brown on that last possession to what would have been a buzzer-beating win. Instead, Harris covered him well enough that forced him to miss the shot, even though Brown did pace all scorers with 32 and had 11 rebounds as well. The Pistons won 3 of the 4 against Boston. The best Detroit records at the midway point in team history. In 2006, they were 36-5. This year, they're 31-10. This is the second most wins the Pistons have ever had at the midway point in the history of their franchise. That tells you something right there. And Cade Cunningham, by the way, voted as an all-star starter. All right. Michigan's number 3 in the latest college basketball poll. MSU number 10. How about the latest college hockey poll? We always go to football and basketball. You want the latest college hockey poll? Good. I got it for you. Michigan 1, Michigan State 2, Western Michigan 3, Michigan Tech 18. Good for them. Red Wings off until tomorrow, and they're going to visit Toronto. Here's the Mitch Lions Wealth Poll question. Do you like the Lions' hire of Drew Pensing as offensive coordinator? Yes or no? Vote as often as you want. We'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour. Here's what we got coming up for you here on X's and Bros. When we come back, John Scott is the Bills television pre and post. He's going to join us and talk about the firing of Sean McDermott. The other thing we're going to ask him is Brandon Beane was promoted. How does he get promoted when he only drafted 2 Pro Bowl players out of the 56 draft picks he selected since the team drafted Josh Allen? How does something like that happen? Who might have the inside track on becoming their next head coach? And how much of this playoff disappointment lies on the shoulders of Josh Allen? A lot of national members in the media are taking dead aim at Josh Allen. They don't use the same criteria for C.J. Stroud. They don't use it for Caleb Williams. They don't use it for Lamar Jackson, but they sure do it for Josh Allen. I wonder why that is. We'll get to all that and more coming up here on X's and Bros with John Scott. When we come back after this, we're brought to you this hour by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Step into luxury this January with a $275,000 Escalade giveaway at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Every Friday and Saturday from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., 2 lucky guests will win $250 in premium play and 250 bonus entries every hour. And don't miss the grand finale on January 30th and 31st at 11 p.m. One lucky winner each night will drive away in a 2026 Cadillac Escalade. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Your getaway reimagined. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com for complete rules and details.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
Thanks for tuning in to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Huge here with a message to all of you Lions fans. My good friend Josh Garvey, who runs Dorn Mayhew's Grand Rapids office, will join me every Thursday with former Lion Lomas Brown, and we'll go inside the Lions each and every week all the way through the Super Bowl. Dorn Mayhew is proud to partner with the Huge Show, and we're proud to have a guy like Josh Garvey join us in studio every week. If you have a Lions question or comment, you can drop them at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook. Dorn Mayhew, proud to be a part of the West Michigan community and across the entire state with their corporate worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan. So make plans every Thursday, 5 p.m., It's Josh Garvey, who is the managing shareholder at Dorn Mayhew's GR office, with Lomas Brown on the Huge Show going inside the Lions every Thursday at 5 p.m.
A lot of shakeups in football, 10 openings in head coaching opportunities. Maybe the biggest surprise was what took place yesterday in Buffalo. Sean McDermott, who in 9 seasons has been simply outstanding, but they haven't been able to get to where many people expect them to get to. Sean McDermott fired yesterday in Buffalo, and a man who covers that and covers the Buffalo Bills and does a hell of a job with it, John Scott, joins us here on X's and Bros. John, appreciate it very much. Happy New Year to you. I know it's been a very busy time for you. How surprised were you that Sean McDermott was given the pink slip?
Yeah, I was stunned. I was sitting at home with a rare moment with my wife and kid, was about to go to the gym and start getting calls from work yesterday, and it was shocking. I did not think that would happen. There were rumblings on the national level, I know, over the coming weeks that should there be an early playoff exit, Sean McDermott's job would be on the line. I thought that while making it and losing in the divisional round still is far earlier than the expectations for this team, I did think that the way in which they did it and taking all the factors, the roster, the injuries, the controversy at the end of the Denver game, I thought if you put it all into a bucket, there's no way that they're going to move on from this head coach, at least not right now. And lo and behold, that's exactly what Terry Pegula decided to do, which is interesting because Terry doesn't fire people anymore. His hockey team's been terrible for well over a decade, and it took him 5.5 years of a leash with a general manager who made the team worse to finally fire him. And maybe in the back of his mind, since the hockey team has played the best hockey it has in 14 years over the past month and a half since firing the GM, maybe that was also in the back of his mind that, hey, if I make a bold move, I can get the instant upgrade in results that I've been looking for.
Yeah, 5th in the Atlantic Division are the Buffalo Sabres. So you look at what Sean McDermott has been able to do. I would guess he becomes a head coach again. Somebody should want him after what he's proven. Granted, he's had Josh Allen, but the point is he's still done a really nice job in winning divisions, making the playoffs. Why do you think they haven't been able to get over the proverbial hump in the postseason with him?
I think it's always a bunch of things. I think the irony of the timing of this decision is I think you could put a lot of the blame on Sean McDermott in years past. The defense has failed at the end of games. The defense has failed at the biggest of moments where they've needed to get a stop, where they've needed to make a play. And while they did allow 33 points to the Broncos, and the defense did obviously allow that drive at the end for the game-winning field goal, I think that this was one of Sean McDermott's best years as a head coach with the Buffalo Bills. I thought the roster was really flawed, and his way to navigate that on top of the injuries that they seem to just constantly be dealing with at significant places on the roster, I thought Sean did a really good job. And I think the way that game unfolded on Saturday and the way the season unfolded, I think it was more so tipping the scale towards the roster, which is Brandon Beane's area, and not the coaching, which is Sean McDermott.
Yeah, and Brandon Beane gets promoted, which seemed a little odd. And considering he's only drafted a couple of Pro Bowlers out of the 56 draft picks that he selected after drafting Josh Allen, it's a little surprising as well. John Scott, Bills TV, joins us here on X's and Bros. Where do you think, or what type of team do you think fits with Sean McDermott's philosophy and where he might go if he does decide to continue coaching, unless he wants to take a sabbatical for a year like Mike Tomlin?
I think Sean wants to coach immediately, and I think the number one best fit for him is Baltimore. I think they have great stability and structure in their organization. It's a proven winner. And most importantly, it has the quarterback. And I know Lamar Jackson has health issues, but he is a multiple MVP. He is one of the best quarterbacks in football, and you cannot win as a head coach in this league unless you have one of the best quarterbacks. And so I think it starts there. I think there is talent on an underachieving Baltimore defense that took a step back. And Sean McDermott can make wine out of water when it comes to defenses, because he's been patching things together pretty well with the Bills at various times during his tenure here. So I think Baltimore would be an ideal fit for him. And I think that's the team that it was reported, ironically enough, they're set to have a second interview with Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady for their head coaching position. But I think there's a lot of teams like a Baltimore, like a Pittsburgh, who just went on from Mike Tomlin, who was Sean McDermott's teammate at William & Mary, and they're very tight. I think that's another great, stable organization. They just lack the quarterback and are more of an aging roster. So I don't know if that's the good fit for McDermott, but I would put Baltimore number 1 and Pittsburgh number 2 for great fits for Sean McDermott. Oh, and I think the cherry on top for Sean, considering how this all went down, is that he would very likely at some point soon meet the Buffalo Bills at a really critical moment.
Yeah, he had to be stunned by it as well. Who do you think fits best to take over for him in Buffalo?
I don't like any of these options in the coaching cycle right now. And that's the other part of this, that there's not a Ben Johnson. There's not a Liam Cohen. There's not any one of these guys who has been talked about for years now and just has been waiting for the right opportunity. I do not see those. Clint Kubiak seems to be the closest thing as someone that is a young offensive mind and would seem to be a fit. Whoever it is, it will be an offensive mind. I think that has been what the fan base has been wanting when they've been wanting Sean McDermott gone. They want to pair someone with Josh Allen as a great young offensive mind. Could Brian Dable come back? I know that's an easy one to kind of link. I'm not particularly sure. I also think, as much as I like Brian Dable and as great as he was with Josh Allen during his time here as the OC, he had flaws as a head coach beyond just the roster that was around him in New York. Yeah, he was coach of the year, and he did some nice things with Daniel Jones and did some nice things with Jackson Dart. But when you blow that many double-digit leads, that's also on the head coach. So I don't know if that's a strong enough way to go. Some people think Joe Brady in-house could be an option. Davis Webb has strong ties with Josh Allen as his former quarterback coach. There are options here, former teammate with Davis Webb, the Broncos quarterback coach. So those would be maybe the names, but none of them come to me and say, yes, that person is going to win 12 games and win the division and not just make it to the playoffs every single year, but surpass where McDermott was and reach the AFC Championship game and reach the Super Bowl. There is no one amongst this crop of options that instills the confidence in me that says definitively you are going to upgrade from what you already had.
It's a desirable job without question. Final thing before I let you go. How much of the blame lies at Josh Allen's feet in your mind?
In Saturday's game, I think a lot of it does. It was an uncharacteristic. You talk about shocking. For him to play that bad in general is surprising, but to do it in the postseason, we've never seen it before.
Yeah.
And the play at the end of the first half is ultimately the difference in the game. I mean, he's trying to do way too much with 16 seconds. There's no reason for it. He fumbles, it goes backwards, and it allows Jacksonville to get a free 3 points. And what was the difference at the end of regulation? If they had those 3 points, they win the game, and they're still playing, and they still have a head coach. So in that particular game, I pin most of it on Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is why the Bills have been who they have been ever since they drafted him, and he started his true ascension in the 2020 season when they made the AFC Championship game. He's allowed to have poor performances. He has had to shoulder far more of the load than any single quarterback in the league has over these past few years. And again, I think that falls on a roster because he has a running back now in James Cook, but the options around him have gotten worse and worse and less talented over the past few years. And to me, that sometimes in this season, you saw it a lot. Allen felt the need to revert back to hero ball, to I need to do it all. And that's where you saw more mistakes from him than certainly you did his MVP year a year ago. And we have in the recent years as he's grown into one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think it would be unfair to say Sean McDermott got fired because of Josh Allen, or this team did not succeed the way it needed to because of Josh Allen. They lost that game in large part because of him, but they were only in the position to lose that game overall because of Josh Allen.
Yeah, trying to do too much, and those things happen. You felt bad for him afterwards because he's such a great player. John, appreciate the insight. Really good. Appreciate that. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs if you can, and good luck on breaking the news on who becomes the new coach there in Buffalo. All the best to you. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. That's John Scott, the TV reporter for the Buffalo Bills, as they search for a new head coach replacing Sean McDermott, who was fired yesterday after 9 seasons. This hour of X's and Bros proudly brought to you by our friends at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, January 7th through the 20th. Shop the entire store and choose from hundreds of items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like Kraft macaroni and cheese, sparkling ice, sparkling water, select varieties of seedless cucumbers, and Meijer facial tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life, a good deal better. And don't forget to stop by the Meijer Pharmacy for your flu shot. Available today while you shop. Exclusions apply. See Meijer.com for details.
From Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City, Cadillac, Lansing, and beyond, you are listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
At Soaring Eagle, make it a hot Valentine's night. 5-time Grammy nominee El DeBarge and Keith Washington put love in the air. Tickets as low as $50 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office or etix.com. This Valentine's night, make it hot. El DeBarge and Keith Washington at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
rank the quarterbacks left in the NFL playoffs. You have 4 teams. You have 4 Qs. Jarrett Stidham is last. That's pretty obvious, right? Who do you think? Is it Drake May or Matthew Stafford you'd rather have leading your football team? Because don't tell me it's Sam Darnold. It's between, okay, sorry.
It's kind of funny how there is a clear-cut 3 and 4, but not necessarily 1 and 2.
Yes.
And the 1 and 2 are the top 2 favorites to win MVP right now. So it's a fun question.
Yeah.
I say Stafford.
And I think most people say Stafford because of the pedigree, because of
track record,
doing it longer, right? Yeah. If I told you, for me, look, I like Stafford, but considering who they're playing, aren't you more sure that May's getting to the Super Bowl than Stafford?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's a good way to look at it, I suppose.
I saw this too the other day. Best head coaches in each division. So let's play a little game here. All right. There are 8 divisions in football. I'm going to give you the division. I want you to tell me the first name that comes to mind. Okay.
All right.
AFC East.
I mean, it was Sean McDermott. So Mike Vrabel.
Okay. Now it's Mike Vrabel. Was it McDermott before he got fired?
I don't think so. But you're asking for quick knee-jerk answers here. I thought McDermott just because he's been there longer, but I think Vrabel's a better coach.
Even though Vrabel's been fired by Tennessee.
Correct. Okay. But he's also been to an AFC championship game.
Right.
And has gotten the 1 seed before. I don't know. Have the Bills had the 1 seed before?
Well, I don't believe so because they're facing Kansas City, but they did get to an AFC championship game, didn't they?
The Bills?
Yeah. Or did they lose in the AFC championship?
I don't think they've ever been to the AFC championship game.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason or another they reached it. They just couldn't get by certain teams.
Okay, I could be wrong. But just to get back to the heart of the matter, I say McDermott first, but now that he's out, it's got to be Vrabel. There's no question.
Yeah. Yeah, they lost in the conference championship game in 2024.
Okay, so just 2 years or last season?
And in 2020, they lost in the conference championship.
Why do I not remember that?
When they were 13-3. So anyway, I would have said McDermott, but until he got fired, and then it's Vrabel, and I like Vrabel a lot. AFC South, who's the best coach in the AFC South?
DeMeco Ryans.
Okay. This little article that I've been reading had Liam Cohen. So I would say DeMeco Ryans as well. All right. AFC West, I think is it Sean Payton or is it Andy Reid? I think it's Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Okay. What about the AFC North? There's only 1 team left, and it's Zach Taylor.
Which is hilarious, but yeah.
Which is hilarious. Let's just let that be 0 or nobody, no face associated
because a month ago, if we asked that question, Zach Taylor would have finished 4th.
Well, probably 3rd.
Really?
Do you think Kevin Stefanski would have beaten him out?
Yeah.
Just because he's 2-time coach of the year? I
mean, yeah, put it this way. I think if Zach Taylor got fired right now, I don't think he'd get another head coaching job in this cycle. I think Kevin Stefanski, he already did.
To your point, Zach Taylor's gotten to a Super Bowl. Kevin Stefanski hasn't. John Harbaugh did. Mike Tomlin did.
Yeah, so maybe we're splitting hairs there. I just think it's funny that, yes, he is the only eligible answer for this division, and yet a month ago he might have been the last answer.
NFC West.
Sean McVay.
Yeah. I think what Kyle Shanahan did this year was incredible, but Sean McVay is the best coach. Why don't those coaches in that, the 3, Mike McDonald's a really good head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Who knows? He might get his team to the Super Bowl. I mean, hell, they got home field advantage. But Sean McVay, you could make a case for the other 2 as well. The difference is McVay's won a Super Bowl. So oftentimes you got to find that differentiation.
You'll lean that way. If McDonald does go to the Super Bowl, though, that would be 3 coaches in that division that have been to a Super Bowl.
That's right. Yeah.
That's remarkable.
And not knowing who Arizona's next head coach is going to be. NFC East. This article says John Harbaugh.
I say Dan Quinn. Well, no,
Really?
John Harbaugh. Sorry. I totally forgot John Harbaugh is the coach of the Giants. Yes, that's the right answer.
Dan Quinn would be third for me.
You go
Sorry,
Sirianni?
when Nick Sirianni. Well, dude, got him there and lost, got him there and won.
I know, but there's just a lot of weird rumors
Okay.
about his culture issues and stuff.
I get it.
Dan Quinn.
I get it.
Dan Quinn's been to a Super Bowl too,
Yeah, but Nick Sirianni's won one. He's won.
Yeah,
it.
it's not all about that though. It doesn't have to be uniform across the board. I'm just bringing up things. I would trust Dan Quinn as my head coach more than Nick Sirianni.
I know, but Nick Sirianni, like you bring up culture stuff, it's fair.
I think that's a big deal.
I do too. If it's true, I do too. Were they not able to overcome some of those problems with the culture?
They sure were, but it was bookended in 23 and then this year by just horror stories about that locker room and disgruntled quarterbacks, receivers, all that.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
After they won the division. Yeah. I'm not a huge Nick Sirianni fan. I just him against Dan Quinn. I would take Nick Sirianni from a head coaching standpoint. NFC South.
Probably would have said Todd Bowles. Yeah.
This article says Kellen Moore.
Oh, that's awful.
Shows you how bad that division really is.
Well, on their angle, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've got it up in front of you. I'm sure they're probably saying that he won 6 games with an awful roster. Like that's
yeah. You just
come on, man.
I'm with you with Bowles for sure. I think it's ridiculous.
Just won the division 5 years in a row. The Bucs did.
Lastly, the NFC North. Now, we just got done talking about the NFC West and how you've got 3 coaches who are really good. Could you not say the NFC North, based on what Ben Johnson did this year, has the best collective coaching in all of football?
I think it easily does.
Yeah.
Not even just could you say that. I think you easily could say that.
I don't know who's taking over Arizona. All right. If Mike McDaniel takes over the Cardinals, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying if somebody like that, he would be 4th in the division, but that's a pretty strong division too. When you have Kevin O'Connell, who won 14 games a year ago with Sam Darnold and was coach of the year, when you've got Matt LaFleur, whether you like him or not, he's been a pretty damn good coach, Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, that's a strong case for the strongest division of coaches. This article has, who do you think it has as the best coach in the division?
They probably put Kevin O'Connell.
They put Ben Johnson.
Oh my God. See, that would have been my 3rd choice. I know I hate that, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Why would it have been 3rd for you?
Because
my
rankings there, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I would put Dan Campbell 1. I still would. I still think of the 4 he's proven the most. Okay. Then I'd put O'Connell. Pretty close second, actually, because I think he's done quite a lot with a little bit less than what Dan Campbell's had.
Okay.
Although I think he inherited a much better situation, but that's neither here nor there. Then I'd put Ben Johnson 3rd, just based after 1 season, small sample size. And then I'd have LaFleur 4th, because I just don't think LaFleur and again, this is the division that I have as the best coaches top to bottom. So it's not like being 4th in this division. You could be the best in one of the others.
Sure.
In fact, you would be the best in the NFC South, for example. But LaFleur, to me, I don't think Shep has quite reached the potential that we thought maybe those Packers teams could have since Rodgers left. Does that make sense with Jordan Love?
Well, I think it sort of does.
Whereas Ben Johnson,
I'm not going to disagree with you a lot
year.
on that. I think the difference is, we're into excuse making. All right. We've made excuses for a lot of coaches here this morning on the show. Who's the best wide receiver Matt LaFleur has given his quarterback? Or the front office has given his quarterback? And who's the best quarterback Kevin O'Connell has had in Minnesota? The reason I bring that up is because
Justin
what
Jefferson?
you first said, what you said about, I said quarterback for Minnesota and wide receiver for LaFleur.
Gotcha. My bad.
Justin Jefferson. The reason I bring that up is because what you said about Matt LaFleur, that he hasn't accomplished as much as we thought with what he has. Do you think people outside Detroit are saying the same thing about Dan Campbell? Let's face it.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell has had the best talent in this division, offensively. Best talent. You and I talk about it on a regular basis.
Yes, but Shep, those shortcomings have come up at different points in the season. Like the Lions' shortcomings came in the NFC Championship game. And the Packers, I guess he has been to that with, but that was with Rodgers back in 2021, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm just simply saying, I think since Rodgers left and the whole reason they were comfortable moving on from Rodgers was they've got this young up and coming whippersnapper at offensive coordinator who, they're going to bring in. And then you've got Jordan Love, who you trust, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they've just been a roller coaster. I mean, they haven't won the division yet with that group. So that's why. And again, we're splitting hairs here. We're talking about a division where everyone had a winning record this season. So it's hard to pick who's the last. I'm sure, Shep, if you ask certain people, some people would put Dan Campbell fourth in this division. So,
that may not be a really objective look, but I think sometimes we don't necessarily have.
I'm just saying nationally, if you ask this question,
either when it comes to other coaches in this division. When you look at Matt LaFleur, for example, who I'm not a huge fan of, he's been there for 7 years in Green Bay, and he's had one losing season, and he's had 4 double-digit win seasons. He went 13-3, 13-3, 13-4. He's gone 11-6. To say that he hasn't reached what was expected of him, I understand that. But the big complaint about Green Bay is they never had offensive weapons. They had a quarterback and they had a defense. And in Detroit, it's about, well, we've had a lot of weapons, but do we have the necessary defense? And in Minnesota, it's been, have they really had a quarterback there? Sure, they've got Justin Jefferson, but do they have a quarterback under Kevin O'Connell? He made a lot out of Sam Darnold, didn't make much out of J.J. McCarthy, but still, they beat the Lions twice, which is crazy. And then, of course, you've got Ben Johnson, who's only been a year. I would probably, and this sounds ridiculous, I'd probably put Ben Johnson fourth just because of what the other guys have been able to accomplish so far.
And I'd be fine with that too. I guess it just depends on, I'm looking at it through the lens of like Matt LaFleur's had longer, and I don't think they've quite lived up to what Packers fans and the franchise itself wants. Whereas Ben Johnson in his 1 year sample size won a playoff game, right? And won the division in his 1 year, So I'm just kind of projecting things out a little bit. That's all.
Sure.
Like Ben Johnson in 1 year did something LaFleur hasn't done since Rodgers left.
Okay. Yeah. Since he left.
And again, we're splitting hairs here, man. I mean, this is tough.
Yeah. But LaFleur has won the division. What? He won it his first 3 straight years.
With Rodgers. That's what I said. Yeah. Since Rodgers left, they haven't.
Okay. With Rodgers, if you look at Ben Johnson, he's done it in a time where I suppose the division was a little down. Minnesota didn't have a quarterback. Jordan Love was hurt for a little bit. The Lions were banged up. I mean, we're splitting hairs, you're right. And we're just kind of looking at it from a glass half full at certain situations. I think Matt LaFleur's done a pretty good job in Green Bay, but similar to that of Sean McDermott, hasn't closed the door like many people expected. We were surprised that McDermott was fired because we felt like he had the best quarterback, but he didn't have a whole lot else. Matt LaFleur, not that he's been fired, but what has he had since Rodgers left? Look, it's a lot of it's on him too, because he's the guy who's probably was behind Jordan Love and making sure that happens. I just thought that was an interesting discussion on how you could make it out in a lot of different ways. Let's get to the final results of the poll question, shall we? And get to the daily wager brought to you by our friends at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. And we know how that turned out if you watched the national championship game last night. But the final results in the Mitchell Lions Wealth poll question, we asked you yesterday, who wins the national title, Indiana or Miami? What did most people say?
Thanks to all who voted. 92% of you who did vote, you did vote correctly, picked Indiana. 92% said Indiana would win. So,
I wonder how much of that has to do with the Big Ten aspect of it. Hey,
I think most of it does. Or dislike for Miami, perhaps.
Yeah, it could be.
They're not the most likable program.
Right, especially when Carson Beck, I believe he just walked off the field. It didn't shake Carlos Mendoza's hand.
That's correct.
Which is a little strange. But Miami also showed some good sportsmanship in some other areas too. I believe the daily wager was you taking Indiana. No, or did you take Indiana with the points?
Yeah, with the points, which was 8.5. So that
Yeah.
obviously didn't happen.
Yeah. It sure looked like it was going to happen. After Indiana scored and went up a couple of scores again, I thought, okay, now their defense shuts them down. Credit to Miami for driving down the field and getting it a little bit closer. What do you have for the daily wager tonight?
All right, so a fun one here. Michigan State and Michigan both play. But to split the diff, I'm going to take Central Michigan. They're playing Ball State. They're half-point favorites. It's basically a pick 'em. Give me Central Michigan at home to win tonight. Men's basketball.
Okay. One team in the MAC unbeaten, and that would be Miami. There's, look, that not that this is going to get a ton of pub at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it should, but the undefeated teams are Arizona, Nebraska. Hard to believe that Nebraska's a basketball school, Indiana's a football school. I mean, just for the year.
I know. Anyway. Say that out loud. It's wild.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And Miami. I think those are the only 3 undefeated teams. Miami's ranked 25th. They're 19-0. Good for them, right? Good for a Mid-American Conference team. Now, you could argue to me, who in the hell have they beaten since UNC Asheville isn't all that great? Wright State isn't all that great. They're off or out of conference schedule with Air Force and Mercyhurst and Trinity and Old Dominion and Arkansas Pine Bluff and all that other stuff isn't all that great. That's all very fair. Okay. I hate to tell you, but not that Miami's going to win the national championship. Indiana didn't play anybody before they got to the Big Ten schedule either. Some coaches just believe in that way. Quick text before we're out of here. Go ahead.
This one rolled in a little bit earlier, so my bad for not getting into this, but Pistons, Texas. Look at the 89 Pistons before and after Mark Aguirre. They were solid before him, but I think he put them over the top.
Look at the 2004 Pistons before and after Rasheed Wallace. So excellent point, and appreciate the text very much. I just don't. This team's playing so well. The chemistry thing is one thing, but Tobias Harris is playing good basketball.
Yeah, and that's been the guy. I was thinking about you and I last night talking about that, having that discussion weeks ago of Tobias Harris would probably be like the blue chip guy in a deal, and then you throw in some second round picks or whatever to get a shooter.
Jaden Ivey would be the blue chip.
But Tobias Harris, because of the expiring contract, and he's like he would be a guy that would be in trade talks. He's been playing really well.
Yeah, but if a team wants something in return, they're going to have to sell to their fan base that we've got a good piece, young piece moving forward as a core piece for us. It's got to be more than draft picks, and Jaden Ivey accomplishes that. Tobias Harris, because of the expiring contract and saves you some money, is all part of it too. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.